Welcome to the J&J Wrestling Podcast with your hosts, James Ludeman and James Pinsky.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's old school, brother. It's old school. And guess what that means? That means my partner. Where have you been, brother? Come back to me.
It's kind of funny that you're saying that, because if I recall, now I may be wrong, but I've listened to every show since I've been gone.
Yep.
And I specifically remember you and, what's his name? Justin Michaels, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. We're going to win the tag team titles, and guess what? You didn't. But running your mouth about, how I'm gone and you wish I was there to confront you. Well, I find it funny that I'm here and he's not. So, it is what it is. But it's good to be back with you. It's good to be back on the show that I was a part of starting. The other half of the J in J&J is here with you now. And this will be an amazing show, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited to be back with you, even if you did bash me while I was gone.
Just so we're clear, it wasn't just Justin Michaels. I can go ahead and start listing off all those names that had something to say. Like, we could start with Nicholas Hansberry.
Yeah, well, Nick can't control his company. So when he's ready to come talk to me, you just let me know. But he can't even control his tag team division right now, much less control me. So, you can line him up, and I'll mow him down. And that's fine. It is what it is. So, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about other stuff.
We will, but I want to bring up one thing. Do you have something you want to say to the Suicide Messiah, Mark Mandrake?
I don't know if there is anything I need to say. I've been right in everything that I've said. He didn't beat Abyss. He got out of that. He should have been beat the second time, although contractually, Abyss obviously wasn't going to make it. So then he was supposed to fight, and his match went awry as well, I heard. So now he has an opportunity to get the title shot again. But
I'm talking about when you said he was responsible for the attacks at Dawn of Champions.
Are you looking for an apology? Because if you're looking for an apology, I'm not going to give one. I stand firmly by what I said. Now, I will admit to you, on my time off, I have not, followed the Suicide Messiah's antics very well. I've watched here and there, and I've watched from the background. I've seen video, but again, it's a situation where I don't think that anything needs to be said. I've said all I needed to say. Good luck to him in May. We'll see what happens. 2 out of 3 falls matches are not for the weak. I'm not saying he's weak, but I don't know. I don't know how that's going to play out, but I hope he's listening.
And with that said, James is mentioning that PWE 4 is coming up. It will be a 2 out of 3 falls match. First title will be on the line is the PWE Championship. Then the Cuban Heavyweight Championship's on the line. The second fall, if a third fall is needed, it's title for title. And that will happen at PWE 4, along with WWE Hall of Famer Ricky the Dragon Steamboat appearing on the show. Right there is enough on the price of admission, ladies and gentlemen. And that will be coming up on May 11th. And we look forward to seeing you there. But James is right. We do have other things we need to discuss. And a lot of it is WWE, as we are now 1 week away from WrestleMania in New Jersey. Yeah, I said New Jersey. The hell with you, New York. It's sitting in East Rutherford.
Yeah, that is true. And I mean, honestly, I couldn't be any more excited for this card, I think. When we sat back in January, we started the show really at the end of December, but January is when we kind of got things rolling.
We started December 2nd, just so you're aware of that.
Right. Well, and yeah, but I think, we had the Christmas holiday, we had some stuff that came up, but I think we really kind of got rolling with things in January, and we had an idea of what WrestleMania was going to look like in a few different matches. Some of those we got right. Most of those we got right, I would say. Some of them have kind of come out of nowhere, but here's the thing. I think there's a lot. This WrestleMania might be one of the better WrestleManias of the last I'd say probably at least 5 years, if not longer than that, simply for the fact that there's a number of directions, there's a number of storyline, there's a number of just great matches on this card that any one of them could be match of the night, and I think there's a lot of potential for this WrestleMania to be up there in the upper echelon of WrestleManias. I think this card is good enough right now.
One of the things that is the big thing right now is the main event has drastically changed since SmackDown this past week, and now we have 2 women's champions in the main event. It's a triple threat match for the Raw Women's Championship where Ronda Rousey will be defending her championship against Becky Lynch and the now 8-time SmackDown Live Women's Champion Charlotte Flair. That was a shock. That was absolutely a shock.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. I don't think anybody really did. To be honest with you, the way it looked from Charlotte, it wouldn't surprise me at all if she didn't know it was coming until later, until kind of later on in the day, maybe even before the match. I don't know how that looked, but to be honest with you, I didn't see, first of all, I didn't see them even fighting. They were not advertised for the championship match at all, which surprises me a little bit because Asuka and Charlotte is a great match all the way around. I mean, those two tore the house down last year at WrestleMania, and then they tore the house down on SmackDown too. I mean, the match itself was fantastic, but here's the thing. This definitely makes the storyline a little bit more interesting now because, and I'm not saying that Becky lost a little bit of the fire. I don't want to say that because I still think she's, after Raw this past week, she's still the hottest thing in the company right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say the storyline itself got a little bit stale over the past couple weeks. And I think WWE did this to position themselves to have a little bit more, I'd say a little bit more, I don't want to be, Mr. Pun here, but to put a little more flair on top of the storyline itself. Now, does this mean that this is my question for you, does this mean that they're going to have a unified champion between the two shows? I think it would be a great idea, kind of like what the tag team division's doing right now. Have the champion defend on all shows. I think that would be fantastic.
Well, and that's interesting you brought that up because I've been looking at some of the dirt sheets on what's going to happen in regards to the SmackDown Women's Championship now that is part of the match. Right now, officially, it's just the Raw title on the line, okay? But there's apparently an announcement coming out this Monday, tomorrow night, okay? That's going to decide the fate of the main event in regards to the title picture. Now, I've heard that it could be all titles on the line and the winner takes all. I've heard that the winner or the loser of the fall loses their title, which kind of opens the door up to certain things like, number one, who's going to want to pin Becky because she doesn't have a title? So I would see Charlotte and Ronda attacking each other, trying to win that title and forgetting all about Becky. And all of a sudden now Becky gets to pick the bones and wins the title. It's very interesting to see what could happen. Plus, I read an ultimate rumor. And of course, everything is a rumor. Take it with a grain of salt right now. We don't know what's going to happen. But I've also saw that they want to end WrestleMania with the 4 horsewomen of WWE all holding gold. Think about that for a moment.
That would be incredible to me. And look, I think you could spend the next year. Look, you look back at some of the great WrestleMania matches that had some of the greatest builds. And to me, the best one thus far, now the match itself wasn't all that great to me. I think there were some good moments in it, but The Rock and John Cena had a year-long build-up to their match at WrestleMania. I think it was 28, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they had a year-long build-up, and that hasn't been done before, and it hasn't been done since. So I think to really make the women, and here's the thing, to make the women's championship match very relevant, I think you had to put the SmackDown title in it. Because now you can go in a variety, just like you said, in a variety of different directions. But if they're going to go that route of putting the gold on the four horsewomen of MMA,
WWE. WWE.
Or of WWE, which could very well happen, which is a very realistic possibility.
3 of them already holding gold right now.
Right. Then you also could have, an opportunity there to build up a year-long battle with the four horsewomen of MMA. Now, Shayna Baszler is WWE ready. Ronda Rousey, she is who she is. But the question is going to be, are the other two, and their names are, their name, they're escaping me right now. For some
Marina
reason.
Shafir and Jessamine Duke. And I think I'm liking this whole entire idea of Marina actually joining Undisputed Era to get that little bit more experience working alongside her husband and, of course, Adam Cole, Bebe, and Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. So that may be helpful for her. That leaves Jessamine Duke to be able to go out on her own and carve her own path to then possibly be up there in rank to join the team and make this happen.
Yeah, and to me, that would be a great thing. Again, I think that match is going to happen. Now, whether or not they do it at WrestleMania, whether or not they do it at, whether or not they do it at WrestleMania next year, they could potentially build it for a Survivor Series type thing. I think that would make sense too. But here's the thing: Ronda Rousey is now. Look, there's a small part of me that wants to look at this match. If we're just talking about the match itself for what it is right now, let's just say the SmackDown Women's Championship is not on the line, which I don't see that happening. It's kind of like what we talked about a few months ago. I know it's been a little bit since I've been there, but what we talked about a few months ago with SmackDown Live going to Fox.
Yes.
Ronda Rousey could potentially win this match and be a champion on both shows and defend it on both shows until Survivor Series or even WrestleMania of next year. She could build this heel run as long as she wants, because right now she has heel heat. She's not strong on the mic. She's very athletic. She's very good in the ring, it looks like, at least in the year that she's been here actively competing. She's done a lot more than I thought she would. I'm just going to say she's come a long way. But they could potentially build her up on SmackDown, and then at that point you can push for the 4-on-4 Survivor Series elimination match that could really kind of start around, I don't know, maybe Money in the Bank or even SummerSlam. Probably start around then, and then build it up. But that to me is more of a long shot than both titles being on the line and the winner take all scenario. I think the four horsewomen gig is a little bit out from now until the tag team division in NXT is kind of straightened out a little bit too.
Well, and once again, I believe that both titles will be on the line, but I once again believe it's going to be the scenario where the champion who gets pinned loses her title. So not necessarily that both titles can be won. Becky will not have an opportunity, I believe, to win both titles. It will only be the champions who have the opportunity to win, to have a double title run. But that also opens the door for Becky to be a forgotten piece of the puzzle, because Becky can pin either one of them, walk out as champion, where the other two have to pin each other, and that could actually prove to be an interesting dynamic going into that match.
Yeah, and look, I would tend to agree with you. I think there's I think there's a lot to this story. I think there's so many different directions now that you can go in. That if Charlotte, just being honest, that Charlotte could have never, Charlotte could have never had elsewise until she won the title. So, again, I think it's going to be an interesting match. I think there's, again, a lot of different ways that you can go. And, it's one of those things where I just like I mentioned earlier, I think this card is going to be really good, but I think this women's match is they're going to build this up to not only be, it could potentially be not only one of the best main events of WrestleMania, but it could be, it will probably be the greatest women's match in history, and I would go as far as to say that.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the J&J Wrestling Podcast. We are on Facebook. We are on YouTube. You want to go ahead and check us out? Hey, listen, I got news for you. Just because my buddy's here on the show today, why don't we tell you that we both got a Twitter linked to the J&J Wrestling Podcast. If you want to find me, you go to @JJ Wrestling Pod 2. James, tell them how they can find you on the J&J Wrestling Podcast Twitter.
They can actually find me or us, whatever, @JWrestlingPod1. That's where you can find us.
So there you go. You find James there, you find me on 2, and we got the answers for you if we have the questions. There you go. That's the way it's going to be. So, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank James for showing up tonight here with us because we like having him on the show. We miss him. Remember, he is the other J in J&J. But, buddy, hey, give me a strong critique. What do you think of the show since you've been gone?
Well, I think, obviously, you guys are missing a little bit with me not being there. But in all seriousness...
Okay, heel.
No, in all seriousness, man, look, I told you this before I left. I told you this on the last show, and I'm maybe not have said it since I've been gone, but I've listened to this show every week since I've been gone. This show will always have a special place in my heart. To be honest with you, I miss sitting beside you and doing this show and talking wrestling and going to these events. And I've seen these events you've been going to, and I'm just, well, we really don't have those events here where I am and things like that. But, man, I'm doing well here and really succeeding in what I'm doing. And man, I'm happy that the show is still going on and you're doing such a good job. And, yeah, it's awesome, man.
Well, I thank you very much for that. And just so you all know, I've actually done a partnership, and we'll be joining along with Outbreak Entertainment, and we'll be also producing additional podcasts coming up in the near future. So you want to kind of stay tuned to hear what's going to be coming up regarding maybe some UFC, talking about a little more music. So, but the wrestling part, that's going to remain mine, brothers. That's what I got to say about that. But anyway, hey, we're going to take a quick break here on the J&J Wrestling Podcast. Stand by. We'll be back in just a moment. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, James Pritzky from the J&J Wrestling Podcast. On Friday night, March 29th, an amazing contest between the GCW heavyweight champion Sorreo Spadu and the GCW women's champion Trish Adora. I would love to see that match again and see GCW again. And the next time you will see GCW is on Saturday night, April 20th. That's right, on 4/20. It will be GCW 6 Day of Days. It will be held in Arcadia at Rattlers. 7 o'clock is bell time. Want to get your tickets now. Can't wait to see you there in Arcadia on 4/20 for GCW 6 Day of Days. Get your tickets now. J&J Podcast wants to see you there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the J&J Wrestling Podcast here, Facebook, YouTube. My guest this week, Well, all right. He's not my guest. He's my partner. It is the one and the only James Ludeman.
Yeah, it's me.
All right, ladies. And we've been talking about WrestleMania. We talked about the main event in the women's division. Of course, let's continue on real quick with the women's division. The SmackDown, the Tag Team Championships, WWE Women's Tag Team Championships, will be on the line. We have the return of Beth Phoenix teaming with Natalya. They will also have Nia and Tamina in the match, as well as the Iconics. And, of course, the champion Sasha Banks and Bayley, the Boston Hug Connection. Well, we kind of talked about one of the outcomes that could very well happen is all the horsewomen holding championships at the end of this night. I kind of guess that may be a little bit of a spoiler.
Possibly, yeah. I like spoilers. Paul Heyman's a spoiler.
well, since you mentioned the Polaris here, let's go ahead and let's talk about the Universal Championship match. It will be the winner of the Royal Rumble, Seth Rollins, taking on the reigning, defending, very disputed in some of our cases, heavyweight champion of the universe, Brock Lesnar. Now,
yeah, and I have a problem with the word defending. I think you can only say defending if you're actually defending it. So,
when was the last time he defended the Universal Championship? Can you remind me that? I believe I was sitting in a certain person's living room watching that match.
That was the Royal Rumble, wasn't it?
That it very much was. And guess what? I was sitting in your living room watching that.
And guess what? It was almost 4 months ago. 4 months ago. 4 months, and he hasn't been around. James, there is no possible way, no way in my entire lifetime that I have ever seen or ever thought that I never. Well, I just don't understand. I don't understand. Listen, Brock Lesnar is a moneymaker. I get it. That's why he's champion. Right. When Roman Reigns went down with leukemia, Brock Lesnar was the next thing because Brock Lesnar had the best chance of keeping that title somewhat relevant. Okay?
Okay.
But here's the thing. I am not a fan, first of all, the part-time champions, which he is. And I'm also not a fan of passing over contenders like Finn Balor. For instance, I thought Finn Balor should have won the match. I think Finn Balor should be the champion. Look, you could say what you want. The Intercontinental Championship right now is boring. I'm sorry. You can only fight Bobby Lashley so many times before it just becomes mundane and ridiculous.
All right, we'll get to Bobby Lashley and Finn Balor in just a moment because I want to talk about that.
Right, but I'm saying all of that to say that I am just not understanding why you would have a champion and call him the defending champion if he only shows up once every 4 months. That's not defending. I'll say a lot of things about Daniel Bryan, but at least he's there. I'll say a lot of things about Bobby Lashley or Finn Balor, whoever's the Intercontinental Champion. I know Bobby Lashley is right now. That's not going to happen at WrestleMania. But at least they're there. Now, I will tell you this. If you guys think that Seth Rollins is going to win the Universal Championship, I believe he's going to. But if you think that WWE would try to swerve us and to make it to where Brock Lesnar walks out of there with the title, it would not surprise me in the least bit. You know why? Because of what happened last year. You see, they had an opportunity to give that belt to Roman at that point, but instead they chose to go with Brock. Now, I hope that this year they make a different decision. I think Seth Rollins, over the last year since he won the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania last year, has been the best superstar of the last year, in my opinion. He has had match after match after match that has 5-star quality. He's literally taken the company, like Roman said, on his back, and he's really been the face of Raw. There hasn't been John Cena. There hasn't been Roman Reigns for that short period of time, for 4 months or 5 months, whatever it was. And so Seth Rollins has kind of had to carry the burden. So you have to reward Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. You have to put the Universal title on him. You have to make that title show up on Raw. And I think once Seth gets the title, he needs to have another lengthy title run like he had with the World Heavyweight Championship or the WWE World Heavyweight Championship before he got hurt. And you can do a lot of different things with Seth Rollins because he's a good babyface, obviously. He's a pretty decent heel as well. So there's a number of directions you can go with him. But I think Seth Rollins has to walk out of WrestleMania with the Universal title. There's no other way you can do it.
What if I told you that I read a report earlier this week that stated that Brock Lesnar may have come to a new agreement with the WWE?
Well, I would say they should cancel it and fire him.
But you get where I'm getting to with that, right?
Yeah, I do. And to be honest, I hope you're wrong. And so, you know what? It's not the first time that you've been wrong on this show. But I hope you're wrong. I didn't get a response, so I was waiting on a response. Anyway, but no, I hope you're wrong. I do. And I really hope that they do the right thing. They put the belt on Seth Rollins. And obviously it's not going to end the show because we know who's going to end the show now. But I think to have anybody else but Seth Rollins walk out of there. Actually, here's a funny question. And we could do this as a Twitter poll if you want, or a Facebook poll, or whatever you want to do. This will be fun. There was a question that was asked, and it was a poll from Twitter. I saw on Twitter somewhere. I can't remember where now. But they asked, out of the 3 possible scenarios, which one would you like to see? Now, I'm going to ask you the question because I want to hear what you think, okay? Here's your 3 scenarios, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Scenario number 1, Becky wins whichever title's on the line, okay? So Becky, both is on the line. Becky wins, period. Doesn't matter what title's on the line, okay?
Yep.
Number 2, Seth Rollins wins and beats Brock Lesnar. Or number 3, Kofi Kingston beats Daniel Bryan. Out of those 3 scenarios, which one would you want the most? And which are the other 2 that wouldn't happen?
All right, so we're gonna let's answer that question now because that's gonna lead me to the next match, okay? And the answer to that question is I've been watching this for a very, very, very long time. An 11 years veteran who has done everything you've asked him to do, then you know what? Give him a run with the top prize. It needs to be Kofi Kingston winning the WWE Championship. That is what I want to see happen at WrestleMania. Now, with that said, I almost guarantee that 2 of the 3 will happen.
Okay. All
right.
For
we've already agreed that Becky was going to happen. We know Becky's going to win a title.
Right. Correct.
Now, does the WWE have enough to pull the trigger on Kofi Kingston? Because I'm still with the odds that Seth Rollins is going to become Universal Champion. And that is currently the odds-on favorite to win the match. And here's a catch here. Kofi Kingston, in the Vegas odds right now, is also the odds-on favorite to become WWE Champion. And Becky Lynch is currently the odds-on favorite to win the triple threat match. So now, where do we go from here?
Well, I think, in my opinion, out of those 3 matches, first of all, Becky, okay, if Becky doesn't win, Okay, let's just say that Ronda retains.
If Becky doesn't win, New York or New Jersey will riot.
Well, do you think though that's because usually at the end of every storyline, if you listen to these other podcasts and listen to these other shows, and you and I have listened to 83 weeks
And
before,
something to wrestle with, yes.
Right, yeah. And at the end of these feuds and the end of these matches, there's the payoff. And you would think that the payoff would be that Becky would win and, things like that. But in my opinion, and look, I still think Becky's going to walk out the champ, okay? Please don't get me wrong. But playing devil's advocate for a minute, what if you kept the belt on Ronda? What if you made Ronda look indestructible over the next year, and then at that point you could pull the trigger on? You could make this. I'm telling you, Charlotte does not have to be in this match at all. When we were talking about Survivor Series, we were more frustrated at the fact that it was Charlotte versus Ronda instead of Becky versus Ronda, because Becky versus Ronda could have stole the show. Meanwhile, Charlotte versus Ronda was still a good match, and I think that's why she, the way the things ended is the reason why she didn't.
We didn't get a chance.
Well, and here's the thing. If you keep the belt on Ronda, you can have Becky come back and say, well, you won, yes, but you did not beat me one-on-one. We have tried to have a one-on-one match twice now, and it's been messed up. And you could spend months building a match between those two by themselves without Charlotte being around, and you could do well with that. Let's say that if Ronda wins and Brock Lesnar wins and Daniel Bryan wins, is that a failure for WrestleMania?
I will say yes.
Why do you say that?
And believe it or not, it has nothing to do with the main event, because real honestly here, any one of those women could become the winner of the main event. I know you mentioned Ronda retaining, but it very well could be Charlotte could very well win title number 9 on that night as well. It's very possible.
Right.
Okay. In regards to Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar, it may hurt his momentum, but it won't kill off Seth Rollins if he was to lose the match. It didn't do it to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania last year. I don't think it will kill off Seth Rollins now. Yes, it will give him it will take a while for 2 reasons. Number one, Brock won't show back up until Saudi Arabia, or at least whatever the next time there's a big pay-per-view. But
right.
Nevertheless, it's going to need time for Seth Rollins to rebuild his character up. The reason I say it will fail is if Kofi Kingston actually does not win. I don't see another scenario other than Kofi Kingston becoming WWE champion, because if he doesn't, it almost proves that McMahon is racist.
Well, I think to me, and here's the thing, okay? WWE could really do the right thing, and they could make these. To be honest, now I don't think this will ever happen, but you notice at Wrestle Kingdom in January, every title changed hands, every single one, and I don't really recall the last time a WWE pay-per-view. They may not have ever done this, and you probably know better than I do. But
the last time that I remember,
ever had it all change hands? I mean, every title, have they changed hands before?
Okay, well, I don't know if every title was on the line, but I do remember that the last time that the WWE that I recall had a pay-per-view that every title that was on the line changed hands was at Survivor Series 2002. And what happened that night was the Women's Championship changed hands. Victoria won the title. We had the WWE title change hands. Big Show beat Brock Lesnar for the title. The SmackDown Tag Team titles changed hands. That went with the Los Guerreros. The World Heavyweight title changed hands. The Cruiserweight title changed hands. there were 6 matches on the card, and 5 of them were title matches. So does that tell you anything?
Well, and it's been that long. I mean, it would make sense because see, here's the thing: you would have Finn Balor winning the Intercontinental title, which I think is going to happen. You would have Kofi winning the WWE title, which I don't know if they're going to pull the trigger on that. The only way that I think they would pull the trigger on that is if they're trying to set up Big E for a heel run. I think the New Day's done. I think what we're seeing now is the end of the New Day. Whether or not Kofi wins or loses, I think, and listen, the crowd's really behind Kofi right now, and I think that that's been the biggest. They're trying to do this whole Daniel Bryan spin. Kofi's a B+ player. Kofi's this, and they're going to make the triumphant win at WrestleMania. I get it, but I think WWE is secretly disguising a New Day breakup, and I think it's going to be Big E, who's going to be the one to do it. And I think at some point, Big E is going to fight Kofi for the WWE title. Could very well be at the pay-per-view after the next one, because you got to assume that Daniel Bryan's going to come for his rematch, which they don't get automatic.
No. There's no automatic rematches anymore. What are you talking about, man?
Yeah, but it's WWE. You gotta know. You gotta know it's going to happen. Anyway, so bottom line for that, I don't think they're going to pull the trigger with Kofi yet. But if they did, it would make sense. And then Seth Rollins, to me, I disagree with what you say. I think if Seth Rollins doesn't win, you crush any opportunity for Seth Rollins to be the man, to be the guy. Because I mean, the guys who have beaten Brock Lesnar are the guys who are, the mainstays of the company. Roman Reigns, John Cena, those guys have been mainstays. And Roman still is, for all intents and purposes. Which he's got a great match too against Drew. I think that match could be better than what we think too. So again, this is a stacked card all the way around. I'm pretty impressed with how they built the card this time.
Let's get to the Intercontinental Championship match. We briefly touched on it. Bobby Lashley's the reigning Intercontinental Champion. Finn Balor earned that title match by defeating Bobby Lashley and former WWE Champion Jinder Mahal in a 2-on-1 handicap match.
I still can't get used to that. Former WWE Champion. I still, anyway.
Right? Okay. And how long he held the title too. Let's get to that point here where Finn Balor won the Intercontinental title in a 2-on-1 handicap match. Lio Rush was the partner of Bobby Lashley, and that's who he pinned to become the champion. Bobby Lashley will regain the championship from Finn Balor, and now it's going to be a 1-on-1 affair, and Finn Balor at this point has not beaten Bobby Lashley 1-on-1. That brings me to a big question. Is it time for the man to step aside and for the Demon to come out and play?
Yes. And I will say yes because there was an interview with Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush last week. And Bobby Lashley made the quote, "I'm going to beat the Demon out of Finn Balor." And also, I don't know if you've known this, but if you look at the current WrestleMania poster, you will not see a picture of Finn Balor. You will see a picture of the Demon. So they are advertising that the Demon will be there in New Jersey. So I believe this week on Raw, tomorrow night, you will either see the Demon or you will see Finn Balor get the mess beat out of him, and then something will happen with the Demon. I'm going to call it right now. And you will see the Demon, Finn Balor, at WrestleMania in an awesome entrance, which I think could really be sweet if they put that match on toward, maybe not the end, but I think if they put it on midway, that could be another match that could really do well. And I think Finn Balor will walk out as Intercontinental Champion.
The last time the Demon came out, there was no advertisement. Nobody knew it was going to happen. It was kind of on the spot. Baron Corbin had a match with Finn Balor, and all of a sudden,
the fun sucker.
we get it right here, okay? He's the charisma vacuum, manages to suck and blow at the same time, but he has the most awesome theme song in all of WWE. Did we get that right now?
I agree.
Okay.
I agree, yeah.
Speaking of Baron Corbin, he's the last match that Kurt Angle is going to have in WWE. Of course.
No, he's not.
You don't think he is?
Nope. I don't think they're going to fight at WrestleMania. I don't.
You still think they're going to change it?
Here's what's going to happen. I'll give you what is most likely to happen versus what could potentially happen. Are you ready for this?
Go ahead.
You want to talk about rumors? I'm going to share a rumor with you right now. All right? First off, let me start with what I think is going to happen. I think somehow, and whether or not they set this up tomorrow night or they set this up day of WrestleMania, I think there is potential for the last match of Kurt Angle to not be Baron Corbin. It will indeed be John Cena.
Okay.
I think John Cena being at WrestleMania obviously makes it, WrestleMania season. But secondly, I think there isn't anybody that Kurt Angle has wanted to fight more since he's been back than John Cena. And we haven't seen John Cena in a while. But anyway, so let me talk to you about what I think is probably not going to happen, but the rumor, okay? There is a book by John Robinson. I don't know if you know this book, but it's called According to John Robinson, and he wrote the book Creating the Mania, an inside look at how WrestleMania comes to life.
Okay.
If you remember, there is a son in this equation. His name is Jason Jordan. And according to John Robinson, who wrote the book, Kurt Angle's storyline, which they had a storyline before the neck surgery, if you remember that,
right,
with the whole Survivor Series thing.
Right.
A storyline with Kurt Angle would conclude at WrestleMania, depending on not, obviously Kurt's, really, I don't want to say his career's on the line. It's not like a Triple H Batista thing. But it's his last match. And who else would you not want to wrestle than your quote-unquote son in your last match at WrestleMania? Now, Jason Jordan has not been really seen or heard from by anybody. Neck surgery is a serious thing that takes a long time to recover from. I don't know if Jason Jordan is even healthy enough to be in a WWE ring. It's a long shot at best. But it would not surprise me if we ended up seeing him show up at WrestleMania. But I think the more likely of the two is going to be John Cena. There's no way, after that backlash that they took online, I don't know if you saw that, but Twitter exploded.
Oh, no, I did very much see it.
When he announced it. Because it was either going to be John Cena or it was going to be The Undertaker. And Undertaker has not been advertised for this year. This could very well be the first year in a long time that we have not seen The Undertaker in WrestleMania.
The last time The Undertaker was not at WrestleMania was back at WrestleMania, I believe it was 16. WrestleMania 2000.
Oh, yeah, he wasn't there for that one. Wow. Forgot all about that. Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's still, you're looking at almost 20 years. Been around for that long. It's crazy. But here's the thing. I am of the opinion that Kurt Angle is probably, and I could probably put him up there in this. I would say he's one of the greatest. I know this phrase is thrown around a lot, one of the greatest superstars of all time. But I put Kurt Angle in that moniker. There is no one in this business who has done the things that he has done. He's an Olympic gold medalist. He came in.
I trump you on that. I trump you on that. He not only is one of the greatest superstars of all time, but he is probably the greatest athlete in the WWE ever had. And I say athlete because of how his background was. He is an Olympic gold medalist who won it with a broken freaking neck.
Yeah, and it's true. But I think, the more that I look back on Kurt Angle's career, and even when he was in TNA and doing the stuff with Impact Wrestling, man, he just had so many quality matches. And I'm really glad that he got to wrestle Samoa Joe last week, and I'm glad he got to somewhat wrestle AJ Styles until, Randy Orton kind of threw a wrench in it. But it was really cool to see that. And I think there's nobody else that I think Kurt could finish his career in WWE against than John Cena.
And I agree with you.
It's not Baron Corbin.
I agree with you. I think, John Cena's first match in WWE was with Kurt Angle. It would be fitting for Kurt Angle's last match to be in the WWE with John Cena. Now, this Monday night, it's going to be Kurt Angle taking on Rey Mysterio, which was Rey Mysterio's first pay-per-view was against Kurt Angle at SummerSlam 2002.
Yeah. And that was a great match. And, you can look at all these matches again on the WWE Network, but here's the thing. You can look back at that match and just see how phenomenal it was. And listen, Rey Mysterio, I think it's in just as good a shape now as he was then. He might be in better shape now than when he was then. He still moves around the ring really well. He's got a match against Samoa Joe for the U.S. title on Sunday.
Yep.
And I think that's going to be a good match, too. I think Samoa Joe is probably one of the most underrated heels and athletes in the company. But that's just opinion from me. But I think he is. I think he's very underrated. But going back to Kurt Angle, I'm sad. I am sad that he's done. I think it's time for him to be done. But I am sad because, there's not a lot of wrestlers that I grew up really liking a lot. There's a few that I really enjoyed throughout the Attitude Era. But I will tell you, one of the people that I enjoyed watching was Kurt Angle. Whether I loved or hated him, he was so good at what he did. And I'm very happy. And to be honest, one of the highlights of my life, if you can believe this, outside of, getting married and kids and stuff, but one of the highlights of my wrestling life is I got to be there in Orlando when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I think that was one of the coolest things that I've ever gotten to be a part of. To see someone that I watched for my whole wrestling fan career be inducted into the Hall of Fame was absolutely awesome. And I'm very honored I got to be that. And so I hope no matter what happens that Kurt Angle, even if he does somehow wrestle Baron Corbin, or the other thing too, I just thought about this. What if he does wrestle Baron Corbin and he beats him in like 30 seconds or a minute, and then he fights John Cena? That would be crazy. That would be cool though. But
possible.
I don't know.
I got to see Kurt Angle wrestle in Hartford, Connecticut, on his first day as WWF champion, which was a really cool experience. He won the title the night before when he beat The Rock, and it was just really...
No mercy!
Yeah, it was really awesome. It was 11 months into his WWF career, became the WWF champion, and that was unheard of back in the day of a rookie. Pretty much, he was green still, but he was probably the most athletic green person in WWE history, and he was champion in 11 months. 11 months.
Speaking of which, speaking of green, did you see the booger in his nose when he was celebrating that night?
Saw the tears coming down his eyes, but I'll tell you right now, that was really awesome. Hey, let's move along to the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, except that I have one question for you, sir.
Okay.
Does retired New England Patriot Rob Gronkowski enter the Battle Royal?
would say, I'm going to say yes for now. But at the same time, I kind of don't want to say that, but there's already two celebrities from Saturday, the two guys from Saturday Night Live that are going to be in it.
Mm-hmm.
And generally, there's only like a certain amount. There's usually only one celebrity in it, if there is one at all. And then this year, they're having two. So it might be kind of, I don't know. It would be cool if he came in. I think it would be good. I think the crowd would like it. But at the same time, I don't know if he would do it this year or not.
All right, very cool. And, WrestleMania's a stacked card, as we are well. We got Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre also happening. You expect one or two NXT call-ups. We still haven't heard anything if a women's battle royal is going to be happening. But I'm leaning towards it now that Asuka's no longer champion and the rest of the women's division needs to get into WrestleMania. So I'm pretty sure we'll get to see that coming up. So we'll hopefully figure out everything in the next two episodes, number one Raw and then SmackDown coming up. Of course, we got a little more to talk about coming up here. We're going to take a quick break here on the J&J Wrestling Podcast, and we're going to bring up a little bit of NXT coming up in just a few moments. Stand by.
Hey, wrestling fans, you all know you want to get to WrestleMania or some other big event. Well, I got a treat for you. You can get your tickets at selectaticket.com. And when you use the code WRESTLE10, that's WRESTLE10, you can get $10 off of any sporting event. That includes the granddaddy of them all, WrestleMania, NXT, how about the National Football League, Major League Baseball, and many, many, many more. Just remember, you need the code WRESTLE10, and that'll get you $10 off of any sporting event that you can get on selectaticket.com. What are you waiting for? Visit the website, selectaticket.com, and use the promo code WRESTLE10 and get $10 off. Tell them the J&J Wrestling Podcast sent you.
This is the Suicide Messiah, Mark Maybrick, and you are listening to the J&J Wrestling Podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the J&J Wrestling Podcast. I am the host, but I'm being joined by my former co-host, James Ludeman. I'm proud to have you back, man. This has been one of the wildest hours that I've had here on the show in quite a while. Of course, that's behind Justin Michaels, Mark Mandrake. You may have beaten out Sam C, but you know how it goes.
I really want to. I would love to respond to you, but to be honest, it's just a waste of my time. So I just rather not respond. But I will tell you, just like I said in the beginning of the show, I hope those clowns are listening, because I will tell you that I listen to every show, guys. Going forward, I listen to every show, and if you don't think I do, trust me, I do, and I will know if you talk trash about me. And believe me when I say, if you talk trash about me, it may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow, it may not even happen a year from now, but you will have to hear from me again, and I will make sure that you remember exactly what you said and exactly what you talked about. So just remember that, folks. I'm always here even when I'm not here.
Okay. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I want to kind of give you a quick reminder. Next week, our show will be on WrestleMania night. It's not going to be playing at night, though. We're going to play it early. We're going to get it on air at 12 noon. All right? So that way you don't miss WrestleMania. And because we know WrestleMania is a long day, we don't want you to miss what's going to happen. Next week, my guest will be the 8th Deadly Sin Sideshow is going to be on the air with me. What do you think about that, James?
I like Sideshow. I think he's solid, and when I saw him back in February, I was really impressed, and it's good. I think he's good, and I think him and ERA are going through a little bit of it right now, but Sideshow, he's a scary dude, so good luck to you.
They threw on yet another masterpiece at the last event in March at PWE 3 No Remorse, and I will tell you right now, I'm looking forward to the rubber match. It will be probably in June we're looking for right now for the rubber match, but I'm telling you right now, I'm hoping for an awesome contest between the two of them. We'll see what we can get out of that. We're going through Commissioner Vince to see when that match will come to fruition. You have to assume that both want a piece right now, and both have claims to want to be the PWE heavyweight champion. So this may be a very great opportunity for the winner of this match to be named the number one contender.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's going to be interesting the way that it, moves forward from here. I don't know, man. I'm jealous. I'm jealous.
Well, I know ERA is definitely wanting to get some of his heat back. He just last week lost the WXW championship in a triple threat match. So he's definitely looking to climb back up the mountain again. So definitely we're going to keep our eyes out on that situation. Let's go over to NXT here, my friend. NXT is coming up. It will be on Friday night. Just so you're aware, folks, it's not going to be Saturday night. Saturday night's going to be the Hall of Fame. So on Friday night, it's going to be NXT, and that is at the Barclays Center. And, well, the main event, I am so looking forward to this one. This is going to be probably one of the hottest main events in NXT history. It's going to be for the vacant NXT Championship. It will be Johnny Gargano versus Adam Cole, baby. 2 out of 3 falls for the vacant championship. This match has happened before. It was a amazing contest. It was for the North American Championship, and of course, Adam Cole retained the championship. I don't see that happening again. I see Johnny Gargano taking the championship this time.
As much as I would love to sit here and say that my dude Adam Cole will win the match, it is going to be. I would go as far as to say that this match for the NXT Championship will trump any match that NXT has ever had. And there's been a lot of them, but I think this match could very well be the best match in NXT history. I'll go on record of saying that. But what I will say is I think right now Johnny Gargano has to win the title. And here's why. Because after WrestleMania is over, I think that the WWE is going to be invaded by the Undisputed Era. And I think they're going to be used in a way that is not like Sanity and not like any other group since that has come from NXT, like the Wyatts or anything. I think that Undisputed Era will be called up very shortly after WrestleMania. And I think that's exactly why Johnny Gargano will probably win the title at that point.
The NXT North American Championship will be on the line as the reigning champion, the Velveteen Dream, is going to be challenged by Matt Riddle. The King of Bros is going against the Dream. What do you think about that one?
I think personally that Velveteen Dream is another guy who I think is going to get called up. So I think I will say Matt Riddle wins the title because there's no plan to really call him up yet, or at least at this point. So I think you got to put the title on Matt Riddle and allow Velveteen Dream to get the call up that I think is coming.
The tag team championships only on the line. The War Raiders will be challenged by the winner of the Dusty Rhodes Classic, and that is Aleister Black and Ricochet, who may very well, it's not official yet, but may very well be also challenging the Raw Tag Team Champions, the Revival, by the time WrestleMania rolls around.
Yeah, I think that's why the War Raiders will probably retain, is because the plan is to have Ricochet and Aleister Black challenge for the Raw Tag Team titles. I think tomorrow night we'll get a better idea of what that looks like. Mm-hmm. But I highly doubt that they're going to put the NXT now. I mean, I guess they could potentially put the NXT tag titles on them, but they've been on the main roster now for over about a month, maybe a little over a month.
Right.
So I think at this point you want them to kind of stay toward the main roster because they're doing well. So I think the War Raiders retained in this case.
The Fatal 4-Way match for the Women's Championship, and we talked off air about this, and I know, get it out of your system. Say what you need to say about Bianca Belair.
Look, I've never been a Bianca Belair fan. I just don't think that she's, I don't know. I don't think she's as good as what she thinks she is. I've seen her wrestle, and I'm just not impressed. I think there are three other women in this match, Shayna Baszler included, Shayna Baszler, Kairi Sane, and Lo Shirai, that I think could really do well. So here's the thing. I will say I'm gonna say Lo Shirai wins the title, because I want to believe that Shayna Baszler is going to be ready for main roster as well. And I think that she could be used in a, Becky Lynch type feud potentially. And she's the first step for, that whole, fatal or the horsewomen, MMA horsewomen members and stuff like that. So, technically she could come up, Shayna Baszler, and then fight Becky Lynch, and stuff like that. Get ready for SummerSlam, and then that's when you could potentially bring up Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke and, have them kind of go at it and then set up Survivor Series potentially. So, again, there's a number of things you could do, but I'll go online and say that Lo Shirai wins. It wouldn't surprise me if Shayna retained, though.
WWE Hall of Fame ceremony will be on Saturday night, and we have had one two-time Hall of Famer for a very long time. It will now have 3 additional two-time Hall of Famers going in this Saturday night. Let's go through the list. D-Generation X is going into the WWE Hall of Fame, and that will include the now two-time Hall of Famer as of this Saturday when it comes up, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, The Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, X-Pac, and China all get their spot in the hallowed halls. What do you think about all of DX going in?
I think it makes sense. I'd say that, I honestly believe that China should be in the Hall of Fame by herself, and I think I'm not the only one who believes that. But if this is the way that WWE believes that they can get China in the Hall of Fame, then I'm for it. But again, I still think China should kind of be by herself on that. But DX was just so. They were just the cornerstone of Raw for such a long time, and so it makes sense for them to go and to be in there. But kudos to WWE, I think, for putting China in. But then again, I still think that China should be, in there by herself, personally.
The longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time, the Honky Tonk Man, has taken his rightful spot in the WWE Hall of Fame. What do you think about the Honky Tonk Man?
This one actually surprised me because I didn't realize that he wasn't in it. I could have swore that he was in it. And then when they announced him, I was like, well, that's really weird because he should have probably been in years ago. But good for him. I think, again, he's another guy that absolutely deserves. I think everybody who's in it this year deserves it. But I think he's definitely, it's kind of about, I look at this and go, man, it's about time because, he definitely should have been in well before now, but at least he's in now, and that's what makes sense. But yeah, you're right. One of the greatest of all time, and Intercontinental champions for sure, and held it for 454 days. So I think he deserved it.
And the only reason we know that is because of Santino Morella's Hunkamira.
Yes, that is true. I forgot about that.
Of course, Harlem Heat goes into the Hall of Fame. That will make Booker T a 2-time Hall of Famer. But what about Stevie Ray getting the nod? What do you think about that?
I love Harlem Heat going in. I think that, I think that Harlem Heat, I grew up, it's well known and well documented during the Monday Night War, at least for the first part of it, during the whole Sting time. I was a big fan of Harlem Heat. I love Booker T and Stevie Ray. I love this tag team. Those two guys in WCW were two of the hardest hitting people I've ever seen. In fact, Stevie Ray, I would probably say was one of the most hardest hitting people I've ever seen. I mean, the dude could just tear you up. And so it's awesome. Good for him. Good for them. And again, I think they both deserve it. And good for Stevie Ray for being in there.
Just this past weekend, right after Natalia's match, they announced that the Hart Foundation, the original Hart Foundation, is going into the Hall of Fame. It's going to be Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. This is definitely well overdue for Jim Neidhart. He was a cornerstone of the Hart Foundation with the trademark goatee to that evil laugh. And some of the corniest things that came out of his mouth that just made me laugh all the time. I've always been a fan of Jim the Anvil Neidhart. I'm looking forward to this. Bret Hart becomes a 2-time Hall of Famer. And I think that this Hall of Fame ceremony for him is going to be a lot easier and a lot better than the first one because of all the trouble he had last time, when he came in. It's different now. Water's under the bridge. I think it will be a fun time for the Hitman this time coming into the Hall of Fame again.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think you'll get rid of the awkwardness of that Hall of Fame for Bret Hart. Bret Hart, when he was inducted the first time, he went into a pretty good class. I mean, that class consisted of Hulk Hogan too. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely cool. But here's the thing: I think Jim Neidhart, obviously. That meant a lot to Natalya. You could see the emotion on her face this past week when they announced that. I know they're the original Hart Foundation, but just being honest with you, they're not the Hart Foundation that I remember. Obviously, I remember Bret, Owen, Davey Boy Smith, Brian Pillman, stuff like that, and so I remember that Hart Foundation. So, but I understand putting the two originals in there. And stuff like that. And to be honest, I kind of wish they would have done maybe a joint Hart Foundation, kind of like DX, because if you look at DX, you got Triple H and Shawn Michaels were DX, and then Shawn left after his injury, and then you put obviously X-Pac and Billy Gunn and Road Dogg in there. So again, I think it could have been done, but here's the thing, and I still think if there's one person that needs to be in the Hall of Fame more than anybody else right now, it's Owen Hart. But I know his wife. I know that there's just a lot going on with that. So that's probably why they didn't go that route. But
and you know what? Real quick here,
I wish they could find a way.
Real quick here, the interesting thing about that is Davey Boy Smith is not in the Hall of Fame yet either.
Yeah, he's not. That's another guy, exactly. So, look, I don't know. I don't know what the easy answer is to that. I don't know, but I'll tell you, I feel like they're kind of starting to run out of people. So they're just trying to put people in wherever. But again, it's kind of tough. But again, good for Bret Hart, good for Jim Neidhart. I think that's great. And again, they both deserve it as well.
And normally I do not cuss on this show, but because you really can't introduce them without saying this, and it's definitely a line from the Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard, so I'm going to acknowledge them because I'm going to say this, but Brutus the fucking Barber Beefcake is going in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's that's a little rated R there, but okay. Yeah, no, again, another great talent. It definitely deserves it. Definitely somebody who deserves to do it.
So that's your class. Of course, there's the Warrior Award that will be given out as well. So, but this is an awesome class here.
You forgot one, bro.
What? I forgot one. Did I forget one? Who did I forget?
Tori Wilson.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, listen, I was trying to keep my head out of the TNA. Okay.
How dare you forget about Tori? Anyway, no, Tori Wilson. I
think a lot of people forgot about Tori Wilson, but anyway.
Anyway, yeah, but you can't forget about Tori now. Come on.
No, we really can't forget about Tori. Tori Wilson was definitely one of the pioneer women in WCW towards the end of their run there, and was one of the few that made the transition over to the WWE. Really transcended the Divas division through her 2 editions of Playboy, including the one that she did with Sable. She was just always a go-to girl in WWE. So yes, I'm proud of her for being in the Hall of Fame. It's going to be great to see her again because she really is still one stunning woman. So it's really going to be amazing to see her. And of course, we look forward to her. She was in the ring not too long ago in the Battle Royal at Evolution. So it's definitely going to be good to see her again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, another person who deserves it. And I think everybody in this class is great. So that's definitely a good round class here. I think it's great.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the J&J Wrestling Podcast. And real quick here, I want to make a quick announcement. We made mention to Sideshow be coming on the show very soon. I wanted to let you know that sometime during the month of April, I'm going to be having Joe Abel on the show. And Joe Abel runs a very special program, and that is Fighting for a Cure. And this will be the 6th edition that will be happening here very soon. And this is going to be a tremendous card where independent wrestlers and even former WWE wrestlers come in. And they all fight for the cause, and that cause is the American Cancer Society. And I do encourage you to go ahead and make a donation to the American Cancer Society. We are all in here for the fight for the cure. So if you get an opportunity, you can stop by on my Facebook page, James Pritzky. I'm going to put on there that you can go ahead and donate to the American Cancer Society through my name. We're going to start getting a page together on the web that we can take donations, and we're going to do it in the name of Fighting for a Cure, and the 6th edition's coming up. That's going to happen in Sarasota, Florida on July 28th, and scheduled to be there are WWE Hall of Famers Mick Foley, as well as Rocky Johnson. So this is going to be a fun event there. Of course, Joe Abel will be on the show with us sometime in April, and we're going to have him come back prior to the time of the show in July. But we're looking forward to partnering with him and American Cancer Society. So this is going to be a very good event there, and we're looking forward to it. I'm looking forward, though, to talking to you again soon, James, and I want to thank you very much for joining me again. We miss you here in Florida. I'm really happy you're doing well in Alabama, and definitely there's one thing I want to tell everybody that you may not know about James Ludeman. He is with a youth ministry out in Excel. And he's working with some very wonderful teenagers out there learning about life and through the Lord, and he has definitely found his calling to be able to bring these children on the right path, and this is why he has left me to make sure others have opportunity and have a good life ahead of them. So this is a wonderful thing, and we want to thank you again for being on the show, and thank you for everything that you are doing and making sure the youth of tomorrow is in a much better place.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, man, thank you for having me on the show. It's good to be back with you. Like I told you at the top of the show there, man, it's been a good journey here. I'm excited. I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk some wrestling. I'm still listening to the shows. I'm still supporting you. And I appreciate you leaving the legacy and keeping it going and stuff like that. And I'm excited for you and what's going on. And guys, make sure you show your love and support and appreciation for James, because he's doing a thankless job, and he's doing it very well. So make sure you all show him some love and follow him on social media. Follow the page on social media as well. And that seems like it's the end of the show there, buddy.
Yeah, matter of fact, man, I missed this music, but you know what? It was old school, so we had to throw it out there. So, with that said, you know what? I've closed this show an awful lot. Your turn, buddy. Let's do it.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in live here on Facebook and on YouTube. And we look forward to seeing you guys right here next week. Don't forget, special time, 12 p.m. noon. We will be on with you, or James will be on with you. And we will be doing a special show at 12 noon. And don't forget to watch WrestleMania and keep posted. We'll talk throughout the show. And we love you guys. Thank you for listening live here on Facebook and YouTube to the J&J Wrestling Podcast. And we will see you guys next week at high noon for the J&J Wrestling Podcast.
Sideshows join us. Peace out.